TIFU by checking the location of my estranged husband on the Find My app. This happened last night, so my feelings are still a bit raw. I also wrote this last night, but I'm just now posting it. My husband and I have been separated since February of this year, after he moved out and began living in his parents' vacant house, which is about a 10-minute drive from our home. Even though we physically separated, I have been hoping to be able to reconcile and confront all of the built-up problems in our marriage in a healthy and productive way, so we can stay married, or at least have a healthy co-parenting relationship. However, this evening he sent me a text saying that he thinks he needs even more space, and it had the undertone that our marriage is truly going to end. It made me quite sad, but it wasn't surprising. So I was able to hold myself together, since we have kids together and have no choice but to communicate. I did text him after the I want space Acker I'm done with you text, giving him some updates on a time-sensitive schedule update regarding my 13-year-old. My husband often doesn't reply for quite a while, so I wasn't concerned that I hadn't heard back. But once it started to get late enough for me to start getting ready for bed, and he still hadn't responded, I checked his location on the Find My app. At first it showed him being at his office, which is where I suspected he was, but once the app fully loaded, it showed him heading right towards our house. He was literally about a minute or two away, and I was certain that he was coming to surprise me and tell me that he didn't want to throw in the towel just yet, and I panicked with excitement. I didn't want to ruin the surprise, so I needed to calm down and act casual. But I also wanted to look as nice as possible while still appearing like I had been getting ready for bed, so I brushed out my hair, brushed my teeth, put on my nice matching pajama set, and curled up on the bed with a pen and paper to make it look like I was making lists of important tasks. And I waited. It had been 5 minutes, which was more than enough time for him to arrive, so I checked his location again. It showed him being right on our street, so I was pretty sure he was parked out front, but trying to hammer out a few work emails before coming in. Since that's something he typically does, I didn't want to look out the window, because then I couldn't act as surprised when he came in if he saw me, so I continued to try to look as adorable as possible while on the bed with my notebook, since I was so excited about him showing up without warning. After he sent me such a heartbreaking text, I had a difficult time staying calm and kept checking his location. It had him right out front and not moving, which gave me hope, but was so odd that he hadn't come in. Yet I decided to try to handle a couple of night tasks that have to be done no matter what, like feeding our turtle, in order to help stop my mind from obsessing over him making his grand entrance. After I got a couple quick chores done, I checked his location again, and he was headed towards the house he has been staying at since February. Since he wasn't that far along on his route, I held out a tiny bit of hope that he was going to come back, but when I checked again, it had him at his parents' house. I started crying because even though nobody else knew what I had done, it felt really embarrassing and like I had behaved like a hopeful child. I did, since my husband still hadn't replied to my text about possible schedule changes this weekend. I decided to send him one more text, and I casually mentioned that I saw he had been close by our house. He told me, yeah, I had left the office and was on autopilot and accidentally went there instead of to mom and dad's. I didn't want to look crazy, so I didn't say anything about how it had shown him out front for about 10 to 15 minutes and just left it at that. So, Reddit, that is my humiliating TIFU. Even though I'm embarrassed by my quick to think that his location meant he was going to come and give me a movie-worthy speech about needing me in his life, I do take solace in being able to share it here. It helps take the sting away while saving me the shame that would come from sharing it with a few people in my life and preventing my soon-to-be ex-husband seeing how immature my brain can be. TL. Doctor, I got excited when I checked the location of my estranged husband via an app and saw that he was close to our house, which he has not been living at since February. I tried to look presentable to him and waited and waited. It turned out that he had mistakenly headed towards our house due to muscle memory, and he was not coming to surprise me like I had thought. It's not wrong to hold on to hope and love. You shouldn't feel humiliated. I don't know what situation it is with him or what's going on in his or your life, but I just hope you get whatever closure you need to feel relived. I have high hopes for you as well. Opus. You sound like a very kind and honest person, and there has got to be a nice future awaiting you. In several years you may find yourself in a very positive position, and think of how it took all this to get there. Try to keep doing what you're doing. Work on yourself. Limit expectations. And listen. We're all rooting for you, op. I don't know if your marriage will end or survive, but please delete the app or the access to your husband location. It will drive you crazy, and I don't want to tell you how will you feel if he goes to a club, strip club, or worse, to your friend's house. Please delete it. It will hurt you. I thought he was going to be at the neighbor's house. Me too. I totally assumed he was banging the neighbor lady, lol. I was waiting for that twist and was so glad it didn't happen. The internet has ruined us all. Or because this is r/TIFU and we were expecting an actual duck up. There's nothing wrong with still having feelings and hope. Breakups are truly awful, and sorry you have to go through this with someone you still want to be with. I recommend deleting that app, however. You're going to drive yourself crazy and only cause hurt for yourself. The sad reality of being separated is you both have a right to do your own thing, and you never know what you might stumble upon. I recently separated with a long-term partner and were being civil and open whilst tying up loose ends and still need to communicate. I keep wanting to ask him if he's seeing anyone, or what has been doing, or where has been going. But I realized as much as it would scratch my temporary itch of knowing about his life, one day I'm going to hear an answer I don't want to, and it's only going to hurt me, since he's well within his rights to do all of those things. You should confess your feelings, if you ask me. Worst case scenario is it speeds things along, and he confirms that he wants to end the marriage. Best case scenario is you get to work out your issues and get back together. Please don't feel ashamed. Heartbreak affects us all differently. You are not wrong for holding on to hope. Anyone would do that. I hope things turn up better for you. I'll be praying. My heart is actually breaking for you. I have been where you are and had my heart broken by the love of my life. I wish you well and that healing happens quickly. I like this one a lot. It is different from the usual pile of shit and sex. I feel that I can legitimately connect with this. I hope things get better for you with or without him. I had a similar situation and hopes recently. It is tough. And we always hope for the movies. But often we are better off. Sometimes it takes a while. Or no time at all. I sincerely hope things get better for you. For real. This one straight up breaks my heart. AWW. I'm so sorry. Many hugs for you right now. Delete the app. Stalking him like that once is fine. But if you do it again you could find yourself spiraling into an unintended obsession, and I would really hate that for you. AWW, this isn't a duck up. Not to the same extent, but I've gotten texts from crushes/exes and immediately got ready in case they wanted to hang out. Only to be let down, haha, and I got dressed and excited for no reason. Anyway, hope you feel better soon. Don't worry too much. Agree with this. We've all been there. Don't feel so embarrassed. I'm sorry for what you're going through. I wish I could hug you. My wife and I had some big problems the early years of our marriage. I finally moved out with a friend and started looking for a place to live. One night, I went back home to see my daughter. My wife begged me to stay. There was no convincing me. Mentally, I had moved on. I wanted out. I let her get it all out, and finally, when she was done, I walked away. But for a second, I stopped and said, okay, one last try. 15 years and 2 more beautiful and annoying kids later. And here I am. It hasn't been easy, but I'm happy about my decision. I hope things work out for you. If it doesn't, remember that the hurt will eventually pass. Focus on your kids and the limitless love they have for you. We need more stories like this, because I think all couples go through very rough patches that have the potential to harden our stances. And no matter how vulnerable we want to be to that person we may still love, we shut it down because we are just done, or can't see past our hurt to see the beauty that's on the other side. Thanks for sharing. Tell him/her how you feel, and don't assume that the other person already knows. My spouse and I would have been much happier if I would have learned that lesson sooner. Right now, We are separated but working on being together again. This is heartbreaking, and I feel genuine sadness for you, Opus. I hope you find happiness, no matter where or who it comes from. Tell him you held out hope. Worst case he shuts you down, which helps you move past it too. Best case he was too afraid to admit he is holding out too because he was sure you don't want to. I thought maybe you found out he was hooking up an old neighbor. I just want to say it's okay. I know exactly how you feel when you've just been with someone for such a long time and there is this love that is still there and you still care and can't help but want to know what they are doing and who they are with. I have an equally embarrassing story following my separation. I knew it was over. I knew that there was no going back. But I still missed him and wanted to know where he was and what he was doing. He left his laptop at my house and I logged on and looked at his Facebook and saw he was talking to someone in a poly marriage and about his various dating experience since he and I separated. I ended up telling him I was worried about him without mentioning why or how I knew, since he has a sex addiction and I was concerned about the black hole he seemed to be sinking into. But he just got mad and said I was controlling, and I knew that what I was doing was pointless. We were no longer each other's problems anymore, and I think at that point I just knew it was over. I don't know if what happened will help you see the end or maybe it has made you remember the love you have. But it is okay to feel what you're feeling and make mistakes. Hope is never shameful. It's beautiful. I'm sorry you're in the situation you're in. But holding on to that spark of hope truly means a world of difference. And it doesn't need to be hope for your husband. It can, and should, be hope for yourself. That the other end of this, wherever you emerge, will be somewhere good. I hope you find that place. And I hope you hope that too. Get that app off your phone. Get individual counseling first. Get a good lawyer. You need to work on yourself and keeping your kids supported. He needs to be an aside, not your focus. Should ask why he was at your house for 15 minutes. It could change everything. You keep putting yourself down. But honestly there isn't anything wrong with having hope. Who doesn't want a movie-worthy romantic moment with the person they are scared of losing? FYI, the Find My Phone app has notifications, so he might have seen that you were looking, unless he turned them off. This is how every teen feels when they check Snapchat maps only to see that the person they like is active and they are on delivered 3 hours ago. Based on what you've said, I'm going to assume that he called for the initial separation. If this is the case, don't expect anything even remotely like I don't want to throw in the towel, because chances are he has spent a significant amount of energy, effort and mental well-being trying to make it work to begin with. Why do I say this? Because it's a guy thing. From what I've noticed, generally, women complain about things all the time. Guys, not so much. We might make a fuss about something irrelevant, like bad weather or being stuck in traffic, but that's more for the benefit of others than anything else. When we have an actual, serious problem, we are only ever going to mention the problem if we think it'll change anything. And when we do, we aren't going to make a big deal about it. Take smoking. If I had a problem with my partner smoking, I'm not going to make a big deal and say something like, you know, I hate seeing you smoke. It makes me feel like you don't care about living a long life with me and that you want to die quickly or whatever. We'll say something more like, hey, you really shouldn't smoke, and boom. Done. We've voiced our concern. Now, if nothing changes, we take note. If, after every other time we voice a concern, nothing changes, then we'll more and more assume that she doesn't care if we have problems with something, and so we'll stop voicing them. That'll continue, usually, until one of two things happens. The first is that we lose control of the frustration and pain, and we'll lash out. Sometimes physically, usually at a wall, or whatever. When you hear stories about those guys who get violent once every 3, 6, 12, 24 months, or whatever, that's usually why. No, I do not condone it. The second is that we will tell them that we need space, that we don't think things are working, we won't try to talk about it. Because anytime we've brought up an issue, it's never resulted in talking about it. Or if it has, the talking about it has never changed anything. Now, if you want a chance to get back together with him, there are a few things you'll need to do. The first is that you need to swallow your pride. Note, not your self-worth, but pride. Pride is a terrible thing for anyone to have. It'll make you think, why should I care about his issues when he clearly doesn't care about mine? Thing is, I can guarantee, if there is any love left, he does. He's just waiting to see that you'll talk to him in a calm and collect manner, and that you'll seriously take on board the things he expresses are an issue. The second is that you will need to stop bitching about things. Guys don't handle bitching. Got a problem? Present it clearly, calmly, rationally, and with reason behind why it's a problem. Now, that reason could be as simply as, I don't like how it makes me feel, and that is perfectly acceptable. But there has to be a reason. Otherwise it's just nag 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 bitch bitch bitch. The third is that you need to tell him that you're sorry you've never really listened to his problems before. Tell him face to face. Don't say it with an expectation of it being reciprocated, because we'll sense that and we won't. Just genuinely and honestly tell him that you do love him and care about how he feels, and that you're sorry if you've made him think you do not care about what he's got to say. If my assumptions about what the cause has been is correct, he'll likely thank you and tell you that he cares about you and that he's sorry he dismissed your concerns. It might not be straight away. It will likely take much talking and you asking him about what issues he had and listening. Assume everything he is saying is 100% correct and true, because it is. From his perspective, it doesn't matter if it wasn't your intent or if he got the wrong meaning. But eventually, he'll reciprocate the apology. Now, depending on the kind of guy he is, that could be in the form of him asking about your feelings or issues. In that event, that is him telling you he cares and that he recognizes you've felt like he never listened and he's sorry. I know this was long. Sorry, I hope it helps, and I wish you the best. This is really a pile of assumptions that all men think like you, and that op is a massive nag. I'm not trying to shit on you, and it's great that you're trying to help, but that was a lot on almost no information. Okay. Top posts saying, delete the app to avoid heartbreak. But maybe delete the app because it's a major violation. If you have the app through convenience and consent, when you're together that's one thing. But knowingly tracking an ex is not an okay thing to do. He asked for space, and you decided to unilaterally and unknowingly deprive him of that. I honestly don't understand why this isn't getting more traction. You weren't together anyone, and your first instinct is to spy on where he is, because he didn't respond to you after a "I think we are really done" comment. A whole bunch of just tell him how you really feel comments again without any context for why their relationship fell apart. For all we know, one or both of them were banging the neighbor that led to the breakup. Next time go out there and say hi to him. No need to play it cool. Guys like straight up stuff. Doesn't need to be a huge conversation, just let him know you missed him and it's good to see him. Creeping on the Find My is not cool also, unless you were using it because you thought he had gotten hurt or something. Seems like you two have some trust issues that you need to work out, but there is always hope when love is involved. Seems he may have thought about swinging by and decided against it. Brushing it off as muscle memory may just be an excuse, since he hasn't been staying there since February. I do not in any way mean to try to give you any false hope. Take what I said with a grain of salt. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.